All right, so we're gonna look at assembling the powered blind bracket. So this is assuming you already have all the 3D printed parts done. I've listed the hardware you need in the description of the project, so you can make sure you have all the screws, bearings, whatnot. So assuming that's all there, first thing you can do is take your NEMA 17 stepper motor. This one is 34 millimeters. You can use larger ones if you have longer blinds. I selected these just because they did the job pretty low profile, and they fit in the envelope I needed. So first thing is you can put the drive gear, and you can see it's keyed with a D shaft there. It's kind of hard to see, but you want to line that up with the flat on your stepper motor. So you can go ahead, first thing, just slide that on. Let's see if I can do it here. There. It should go just about all the way down, not super critical at this point where that ends up. So step one done. Next thing you'll want to do is grab your two bearings. So I have two just flanged 4 millimeter bearings. I designed around these just because I had some left over from a previous project. But you could certainly redesign this piece to take some different bearings, whatever you have on hand. So these will just press into those two slots. Again, these will be compressed in another step, so not super critical that they're flush. And once both of those are in on either side, you can take our shoulder screw. So this is again 4 millimeter by 25 shoulder screw. And you want to pass this through your pinion gear. So you can see there's like a slight counter bore on this side, so you want to make sure you line it up. And this fit is pretty tight, so depending on what printer you're printing on, it could be a little different, but you want it kind of tight because there is some torque transfer across that. So once that's on, you take this, and on this side, pass it through those two bearings. Out the other side, make sure that the bearings stay in place, and there you have this. So yeah, once that is in place, again, just make sure those are compressed. We can take our tube insert. So this keys in to the tube that's on the blinds already. So you can see there's this little kind of profile right here. So again, that keys into some geometry on the blinds, and you want to make sure that you've already inserted, you can kind of see it in there in the glare, a 2.5 millimeter heat set insert. You can probably, again, get away with a nut if that's what you have. I like the heat set inserts. I use them a lot. Would recommend them if you haven't used them before. So yeah, basically you can just slide this over the shoulder screw. Again, it might be a little bit tight, and then you can start to thread it in. And so there are two features on the tube insert and on the pinion gear that will help compress this whole assembly. And at a certain point, you might need to get a driver out to take you the rest of the way. Looks like I'm getting to that point. Sorry, I was having some technical difficulty there. But yeah, take your driver, just tighten this down until that bearing assembly is all compressed. And again, you should see kind of no gap there. You can see the 3D printed part. It's right up against the bearing, the inner race of the bearing, and you can see these are spinning together now. Next thing you want to do with this assembled is you can see that there are a couple slots here, or holes here, for some set screws, 2 on each side, and then they're kind of hidden in the gear. You can make it out right there and right there. So you can, I've already inserted the set screws, but you can go ahead, if you haven't, insert those and tighten them down. So I'll just do that now. This just helps, again, transfer some of the torque because, obviously as you're driving, this pinion gear can just basically slide over that shoulder screw. So these set screws just help transfer some of that torque. So once those are nice and tight against the shaft, should be good. You can see spins nice and freely. Probably a little overbuilt for this. You might be able to get away without the shoulder screw. Just using a regular screw and maybe some like more common bearings will probably do the trick. But again, this is just what I had on hand. So, you know, that's what got used. But now one really important thing you don't want to forget is that the screw that actually holds the bracket onto the that extrusion that kind of runs along the back plane of the blinds, there's a kind of threaded hole in there. So you need to place this screw that connects into, or that threads into that hole in first before you put the motor on, because the motor actually covers it. Once we have this, we can put in the stepper motor. So we have our motor. You want to make sure you orient it such that the wires of the motor are facing in the direction you want. So for me, the blind is going to be on the wall like, let's see, I'm looking behind me, like this. So I want my wires going up this way, opposite the end stop. So once that's in, the motor will take the M3 socket head screws, and there are some features in the tube insert you can kind of see that are a little rounded, so you can fit the screws in. It was pretty compact, so kind of had to do those sorts of little design tricks. So again, that's takes 4 screws. Just set those in, and we'll tighten those down. And you really don't have to torque any of these down to crazy amounts. It's not, you know, taking any tremendous amount of force, so just a medium tightness. So once that's in, you can kind of feel the cogging and the stepper motor, and you can, there might be a little bit of, since we printed the gears, there might be a little bit of resistance in them to start off. One thing you can do is, if you loosen all 4 screws, like if you're finding that the gears really aren't meshing well, if you loosen 4 of these screws and then kind of use your hands to preload the motor this way, so basically we're getting this gear away from the drive gear. I'm sorry, the other way. You want to preload the motor that way. So if you kind of apply force with your hand in that direction, and then while there's force on it, retighten those screws. That will often fix any issues you have with the gears meshing. Again, they're pretty small gears for 3D printing. You know, I might end up changing how small those teeth are, but this is what we have for now. This seems to be working just fine. So once that is spinning nicely, we can wire up our limit sensor. So I kind of have the harness pre-assembled. This is actually one that was already assembled that I just disassembled to make the video for. So we want the kind of longer actuating side of this sensor to be towards the blinds. So this slot is set up so basically we would want the long side again to be towards the blinds, which are going to be right here, and that'll hit a little that'll hit basically the runner at the bottom of the blinds. And then just for aesthetics sake, I like to put the sensor on the back side here. You can run the wires through this little channel, so kind of slide it in there. slide it in there and then twist down. So once that's in, oh, I kind of did it the wrong way. Yeah, there we go. So once that's in, you can just get two, these are M2 screws, I think M2 by 20. So you'll want to pass it through this slot into the holes on this sensor. So these two holes in that white plastic. So we will pass this through, get one of them through, then you can get your second one. Put that one through. Cool. And then just two nuts on the opposite side. Kind of thread these on to get started. And where did I put the other one? There it is. All right, so once those are on, you can tighten them down a bit more if you want to. You can see nice clicking sound. So now we're at a pretty good stage. So next you can follow the guide to actually install this onto the blinds themselves. And yeah, from there, things should be working pretty well. So yeah, thanks for watching.